Hi, my name is Robert. This video is designed to give you step-by-step detailed instruction on completing the task at hand. Visit my YouTube channel and watch my disclaimer video. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you find the information you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. In this video, I'll be working on this 2003 Jaguar XJ8. It's got valve cover gasket leaking. If you can see in the video, this thing is actually smoking. I just drove it about 7 or 8 miles. I got the bonnet open and it cooling off. So if you look down there, you can see all the oil that's leaking off this valve cover gasket. So they need to be replaced. Okay, to do the valve cover or cam cover seal on this side, the left side, US driver side of the motor, you have to move this line out of the way. This coolant line, which is very fragile, it can break. Pull this cover up and off. Take the dipstick loose. Cut the dipstick bracket, move it out of the way. Take the cover off the coil packs. Take the coil packs out. Then you'll have access to all the 14 bolts that hold the cover on. You take this line loose here. Take those bolts out. Pull that cover up. All of the cover bolts on mine stayed in except for the one in the top corner up here. And then you replace the gasket, inspect the timing chain tensioner, and then put everything back together. So let's get started. Okay, here's the tools and supplies I used. Had some acetone to clean up the motor head and the some other parts. Engine cleaner to clean up the covers. Throttle body cleaner. And when you do the right side, US passenger side, brakes parts cleaner to spray off the gunk from the oil overspill. Then I had a brush here, pair of pliers, regular screwdriver, 3/8" drive, a socket, couple small extensions, 10mm, 10mm, and some gasket sealer for the joint. I had a brass brush, my ratchet wrench. Then I got some 1/4" tools, a screwdriver handle, small ratchet, a couple of extensions, long and short, 10mm, 8mm, 7mm deep, a 7mm shallow, a pivot, and the ratchet, a razor blade, spark plug filler gauge, torque wrench, and a magnet. Then you need your gasket kit and your spark plugs if you're going to do that. Good to have some gloves with you as well. Hopefully you're not pressed for time and got to deal with this stuff like I am with it hot. But nonetheless, let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is pull off this driver's side cover. These plastic clips lift right off of the cover, but I need to unhook the line here. I think it goes to the coolant, so that I can pull this cover out from under those two lines. Okay, that did work from under there. However, the tip of this cover right here just crumbled off. So this stuff is fragile, like a lot of European cars that have plastic covers and stuff on them. So be gentle. Next thing I'm going to do is unplug this electrical connector here, move it out of the way. Unplug this one here, move it out of the way. Okay, this connector on the front here is easy to come off. You push the tab on the top and unplug it. This one here is a little trickier. You have to turn it sideways, and when you squeeze on the round sides, it releases this end and the other end and allows it to unplug. So turn it, squeeze those two, and then unplug that. Let me get a better grip on it. Might have to use 2 hands. I actually had to use pliers to squeeze it in and then pull it off. Try not to let too much dirt get down in there. Next thing I did was I pushed the wiring harness off of the valve cover. You got one on the top, one on the side, and one on the bottom down there. Now I'm going to pull this plug out of this oil dipstick tube. This bolt here off the cover, and try to work that oil tube out of the way. The oil tube is posing a problem. I got the bolt off, but it didn't want to slide out, so there may be another bolt or bracket down in the motor somewhere. So I'm gonna move forward, leaving it in place at the time. Next, I'm gonna remove these 6 bolts out of the screws out of the cover that cover the coil packs. Next, I'm gonna push in these little tabs on the end and unplug the 4 coil packs on this side. I am going to remove the spark plug, so that's good. And then I'm going to take these bolts out here to remove those coil packs and set them aside. The little cover bolts had 7mm. Set the wire harness aside and be careful when you unplug the harness. It's got a couple of tabs that secure it inside the cover. Then it has one on the end back there where you push it off or pull it off and move it out of the way. Next, I'm going to remove the coil packs that each have 2 bolts and they're 7mm as well. Okay, the first one came out with a little bit of force. A tug had to get it out. The second one come out a lot easier, but as you can see, it's soaked in oil, so that seals bad. Okay, I got the coils out. The first 2 came out. The third one left the rubber boot in there. I'm not going to worry about it because when I pull the cover off, I'll get the boot out. And then the 4th one came out covered in oil. So, they're my coil packs. I set them in order so that I could put them back in the order they came out. Next, I'm going to remove the bolts that hold this cover on. I believe they're 10mm, and you need a deep well to get all the way over a couple of those posts that wire harnesses are connected to. Then I'm going to try to work this cover off with that oil dipstick tube on there, see how that works. Now, my understanding is all of these cover bolts are not the same size, so when I take them out, I'm going to set them in the order that they came out so I can put them back in the same arrangement and order. So I got bolts around the sides, and then I got 2 bolts in the middle of the cover there where the coil packs came out at. Well, I guess what we might call tragedy has struck. I was removing this bolt or breaking this bolt loose right here, and when my hand turned around, it bumped this tube going into the top of the radiator, and that broke the plastic tip that plugs into the top of that radiator. I don't know if the whole radiator is going to have to be replaced, but I probably should have unplugged that before I started this job, because now I may need a new radiator. Okay, the radiator looks fine. It looks like it's just the tip that goes on the end of that. So I'm going to see if the dealer parts department's open and try to go get one of those so I could reattach this hose to the end of the radiator. Well, good for the people that work for Jaguar. Today they're closed. Unfortunate for me, I can't get that part. So I'm going to try to get to the salvage yard to see if I can get that part out of the salvage yard without breaking it. Other than that, the oil dipstick tube, of course, has the bolt under it. Couldn't get it to it because I can't get this dipstick out. So I took some wire cutters or tin snips and I snipped a slot in the oil dipstick tube bracket. I'm going to bend that aside, get that bolt out, slide the cover off, and then I'll bend it back in place when I go back in with it. Okay, I got the bolts loose the whole way around the end in the middle. The only bolt that came out is the one in the top corner, and I grabbed the cover and gave it just a little tug and it popped right loose. So I'm going to go ahead and move that oil dipstick tube and lift that cover out of the way. Okay, when I set the cover aside and pulled the gasket off the bottom, the gasket actually held these bolt assemblies in. The assemblies have the screw bolt, it has a little washer, then it has a rubber gasket, then it has a shank with a little lip on the bottom. That's what these gaskets hold these in place with. Then they got a funny tip. So the center ones have these big washers in them that held the center ones in, and then there's 2 O-rings around where the spark plug wells are. Now this one on the end that came out was actually looks like some kind of replacement nut that was in there. So that's how those are. I took the covers aside and sprayed them with some engine cleaner. You let them sit for a couple minutes, brush them off and rinse them off, and they'll be good and clean. Okay, here's the cam cover off the motor. I guess you could take and inspect the tensioner, timing belt tensioner with this off. People say that the 93 models don't have issues with the tensioner, but you can double check that. And a lot of people cover this area with a rag or something while they work on getting the gasket in place in the cover, because they've a lot of reports of stuff falling down in here and causing issues with stuff falling into the motor, and you don't want that. So I'm at a work stoppage for now, but I cleaned the surface of the engine off with acetone. I lightly brushed it first with a brass brush, and then I cleaned it off with acetone. Now, before this cam cover goes back on, you want to check this belt tensioner, see if it's worn or cracked, and that is the belt tensioner there. It's a plastic piece. Look at it real close from both sides and see if you see any evidence of any cracks or wear on it. If so, you'll probably need to replace that. Now I'm going to clean up this area in here because I did have oil in a couple of my spark plug wells, and I don't know if you can see that one there. It's full of oil, and I'm going to clean that out. Then I'm going to pull these plugs and replace them because I do have spark plugs, and I still got this rubber gasket here on this one that I need to get out somehow. So let me work on that, and then I'll clean this center area up. Okay, you have to be careful when taking these boots out of these wells if you have them stuck. I put a needle nose pliers on it, and then I twisted it clockwise and cranked it out kind of like a corkscrew. You don't want to tear these boots and then have to find another one. And as far as the oil down in the wells, I took a regular screwdriver, stuffed it down in there with a rag, and pulled the oil, much oil out as I can. It's no real big deal if you pull a plug and let that oil go down into the motor. When you start the car, it'll smoke a little bit, but it'll burn right off. Here are the plugs in order. All of the tips look about the same. Gap spread over time, and here's the plug that's in there now. And let me go get the ones that I'm about to put in and show you what those are. Here's the gasket kit that I got from Rock Auto. It's souped up like a bowl of spaghetti. Looks like it's got all the pieces. And here's the spark plugs that I got. They're supposed to be pre-gapped. I don't know what the gap's supposed to be, but I am going to measure them. And that's the part number on the plugs that I'm putting in. Somebody told me to get iridium plugs from the site over there on the Jaguar forums. Okay, I checked the gap on the spark plugs. They was 0.038. I read on the Jaguar forums that they're supposed to be between 0.035 and 0.039, so I left them at that. I put all of them in and I torqued them down. I torqued them to 20 foot-pounds. Not sure what the torque was supposed to be. Now I got the head surface cleaned off, and I'm going to go ahead and put my gasket in place and my cam cover and go ahead and get that on. I've read where some of these gaskets are color coded. You put the red on one side and the green on the other. These are not, and since they're really not marked, I'm gonna have to lay them out and figure out which is which. So I'm pretty sure that the one in the middle goes to the driver's side, the left side of the motor that I'm working on. So I'm gonna set this gasket in, figure out which washers go to what, put all those in. I got several bags here, different washers for different things. I'm gonna set those in place and get some sealant, dab it on that cover, and set that cover in place. See, this is where that dab of silicone on the seal will meet. I dug that one out a little bit, so I do need one there, and then there it'll fill that seam in, which has probably already been filled in. Okay, I worked the seals in over the spark plug wells. I pushed the screws through and worked the seal around that retainer, so that holds those seals in place. You could work them around with your fingernail or with a blunt tip screwdriver. Then I worked all of the screw assemblies around the edge with my fingernails on that, and I got that orphan bolt here, but I did work the retainer in. I worked these small gaskets around the big side of the retainer that'll be on the screw side and behind the washer. So I'm gonna go get my silicone and dab it on these two spots to help seal where the front of the cam cover meets the engine head. But I probably may not even need to do that since that hole's been filled in, but I'm gonna do it anyway. This is the type of sealant I'm gonna dab on those spots. You can probably use the blue stuff or whatever you prefer to use. You can find out exactly which you're supposed to use. I think it's supposed to be gray gasket sealant. Okay, I put a dab of that sealant there, and I put a dab of that sealant there. Now I'm gonna set this cam cover in place and start torquing it down. Okay, so I went across the cover and torqued all the bolts down, but I snugged them down with a quick screwdriver and a 10mm first, and then I torqued them down. This is the sequence that you're supposed to go. The back center one, 1, 2, and then third from the back, 3, third from the back, 4, over here toward the front, down, 5, 6, then to the back, 7, 8, then to the front, 9, 10, then all the way to the back, 11, 12, all the way to the front, 13, 14. That is the sequence that you're supposed to torque these bolts down in, and it's not very tight. It's 9 to 11 Newton measures, which anytime you're torquing Newton measures, you multiply it by 75% to get your foot-pounds. Now, my torque wrench has Newton measures on the top and foot-pounds on the bottom, so I can go either way, but it's not very tight. Now, I'm going to put my coil packs back in and torque those screws down. I think they're something like 4 to 6 Newton measures, and then I'm going to put the wiring harness in place and attach them to the coil packs, and then I'm going to put the cover on and just tighten that little dust cover on to 4 to 6 Newton measures as well. Okay, the coil packs that had oil in them, I sprayed them out with brakes parts cleaner, and now I'm going to put them back together, drop them in. Okay, I pressed the coil packs in place, I plugged them in, I set the wiring harness in place, and I pressed the 2 clips in those spots there, and then I pressed the clip in that corner back there. Now I'm ready to put that cover on, and then I'm going to bend this bracket back for the oil dipstick tube and put that bolt on there. Okay, I got all the bolts tightened around the cap. Be careful, a couple of them tried to cross thread. I didn't let them. They're 7mm, and the bolt that holds the oil dipstick tube bracket on is 8mm. Now I'm going to take the rest of my wire and stuff and clip it around the cover the way it was. Be extra careful when you're working around these coolant connection tubes. There's one there, and then there's one up here at the radiator. Of course, that's the one I bumped and broke, and I'm on a work stoppage because I can't find that part locally anywhere. I'm going to have to get it from the dealer Monday morning. Okay, I snapped this EGR vent back on, snapped the harness in the side, connected this electrical connector to whatever sensor that is, and the last thing I have on this left side of the motor is to connect that hose back and slide this engine cover in place. So I'm going to go ahead and slide the cover in place. If you feel that this information was beneficial, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can also subscribe to my channel so that you can get notification of future videos that I post. Visit my channel. I have all types of do-it-yourself videos there. You can leave questions here and I'll try to respond to them as quick as possible. You can also visit my website at robertspinner.com. Thanks again for watching.